Good evening. I was somehow under the impression that the presentations would all be done by the Secretary and DGH, and I'll only come for the interactive session. But that doesn't seem to be the case. If you want me to sing for my supper, I will. There are two things I want to share with you. In the, 15 months or so that I've been associated with this ministry, I can tell you with a certain degree of confidence, fairly high degree of confidence, that no matter which part of the world you go to, and if the discussion centers around the crucial issue of energy, whether you know the audience or don't know the audience, without too much of an effort being made by us, and I don't want to undermine the efforts which we have made, we haven't done that many road shows, but I think one conclusion emerges unambiguously in all those discussions, that the future, by the future I don't mean tomorrow and day after, but a future defined in terms of a minimum of 2 decades and possibly more, that future and the extent of demand will be defined by India. I think on that there is unanimity no matter where you go. I was in Milan for Gastech. Not what I said or what others said, but if you have captains of industry, I mean those people who actually do the business, what they said, there are 3 messages which I saw. One, undisguised admiration for the manner in which we have navigated one of the 3 crises which we are facing. I'm talking about the fuel crisis. Make no mistakes, this is not the only crisis around us now. We are facing multiple crises, and in those multiple crises, 3 of them, food, fertilizer, and fuel, stand out. So far, we have navigated this one very well. There were impressions in some part of the world that the producing countries have the required leverage to determine what the shape of the world in the energy sector would look like. I would, for one, not wish to contest that in its entirety, that perception. But there is one part of that perception which I would contest. In that overall picture, in which, let's say, the figures given to me by my colleagues, partly right, 100 million barrels of crude oil is consumed every day. Yes, the major producers and suppliers have a very important role to play. They would contest that they determine the price, but when you tell them that by determining the extent of supplies they release in the market, they are in fact determining the price, they would find it hard to argue against it. And there was an impression that this entire problem or the crisis in its full dimension was on account of what? One is that there is underinvestment in the hydrocarbon sector. And that underinvestment arose essentially because someone who was setting the narrative for the climate and the green and sustainability agenda, that someone gave it a primacy over what was happening in the real world. I think it's a perception. Let's not overstate it. There is some truth in the fact that there has been underassessment, and that can be quantified by figures. If you needed $1 trillion to be put in fresh investment every year, people were not putting in $1 trillion, it was about half the amount, quarter the amount, whatever. But the impression went around, now everything is going to become green. And I think they conveniently forgot that in order to make the transition, you also have to survive the present. There's something which came out in Secretary's presentation also. But there's another lesson or strong message which I have heard all around the world. One is that there is underinvestment, but two, that the market will be determined by those who are the major producers. I accept that, as I said, up to a point. I don't accept that in its entirety. And the third one is that the real problem is the military conflict, or you can use any term politically, but we know what I mean, 24th February. And that we are now in a hopeless situation, we have to deal with rising prices. When these are the three major dominant narratives which are prevailing in the world, I think most of you whom I interact with, many of you, individually, mine was the contrarian view. When my CMDs and chiefs of big companies said कि अब तो नाम बढ़ते जाएंगे, I made a very simple submission to them. I said, look, I spent 39 years in another profession. One of my closest friends is one of the world's best authors on what we call the counter-narrative. The counter-narrative, stated very simply, is a very simple one. If you go to a casino, I don't know how many of you have been to a casino, and if you believe that the casino is managed, I'm not saying it's rigged. What happens is you have black and you have red. You have numbers on the roulette wheel from 1 to 18 and 19 to 36. Just sit back somewhere and find out where the heavy betting is taking place. If it is taking place, let's say on numbers, say 5, 6, 7, all on 1 to 18, and if you are a conservative person, just take a little bit of money and put it on the 18 to 36. And then either pray to the God that you have, or to the wisdom of the roulette master, or to anyone, and you'll say most of the time you'll not be wrong. People have made a profession out of this. If everything's pointing in a particular direction, well, wait a minute, there must be something. I have been saying that if prices continue to rise, there is an inherent flaw in the entire approach. And that flaw is that the world's largest economy, $20 trillion plus, is in quarter-on-quarter decline. It's in technical recession. I read the Western press. I don't know how many of you do, but I started rereading the Western press. What I mean, the Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal, after I came to this ministry. Because some of the stories you get there give you an insight into what is happening. I am not going to go too on because I was told not to speak too long. It's interactive. So I hope that we'll still have the interactive part. If prices continue to rise, two things will happen. That big R word, which is technically there already in one large economy, but you know, Europe is also a very important global marketplace because it has many economies which are pretty strong. Out of the top 5, I mean, India is a 5th. I think 3 would be European before us and one after us, 1 or 2 after us. What is the situation there? I was making light of it, but I really mean it. If you attend a meeting in Europe today, you would be advised to wear light suits. Because if you wear your normal suits, you will be sweating because they are deliberately saving on energy. My ambassador in Rome was telling me that, you know, it was very difficult in the last few months to go for meetings because they are cutting down on energy consumption. That's conservation. And with winter approaching, you just have to open a European paper, the English language papers if you use other languages, German or French or Spanish. There is talk of a cold winter, a winter of discontent, and all these things. I'm only mentioning this to illustrate something I have been saying for a long time, that if prices continue to rise, the inevitability is not in what what other people think. The inevitability is the big R. Then the second thing you'll come into is how long and deep will that recession be? And again, if you're a betting person, be very careful to bet. Because once you go into a recession, you are no longer in control as to how long that quarter on quarter thing is going to last. Because then things will snap, because policy making only deals with some aspects of the whole thing. And today I think there is that realization. I come back to my first point. You can say it may be grudging, but it's deep admiration for the way India has navigated through that crisis. I have some slides which were here. I don't know whether they are important. I can tell you about prices. Gas prices, let me start with. Henry Hub of USA seen increase during the reference period of July 21 to August 21 of 140%. JKM marker 257%. UK NBP 281%. These are all documented. I mean, there's no dispute, empirically verifiable. India, the increase was 70%. 1/4 of what's happening. LPG prices. Last 24 months, Saudi CP price, our import benchmark, increased by 303%. During the same period, LPG price in India increased by less than 1/10 of that figure, 28%. Kahan 303% or kahan 202? I can tell you the petrol prices, I don't need to look at my notes. North America, Canada and the US increase was 33 and 36%, ours went up by 2%. Not because that's how we would have wanted to do it, but we limited the increase because a lot of you played ball. The central government reduced the excise on 2 occasions, if memory serves me right, 21st November 2021 and 4th May 2022. And significantly, you reduced the excise, which means you allowed your revenue, which was very essential at a time when you were feeding 800 million people 3 meals of dry ration in a day, you still brought the excise down. BJP ruled states did the same thing. By the way, today I sent out something on social media in a lighter way, and I want to tell you that one of the political parties is doing a Bharat Jodo Yatra. So I gave them a map that if you come the route through the BJP state, this is how much money you will save by filling up, tanking up in petrol pumps and diesel bunks in the BJP ruled states. I mean, it's a serious point. I said 100 million barrels of crude gets consumed in a day, 5 million barrels get consumed in India. And I'm making a prediction to all of you, this is not going to remain 5 million, it'll go up to 6.5 million, 7 million, for which I have an explanation. Today, your per capita consumption is 1/3 the global. But with the fact that the economy is firing on all 6 cylinders, it will equal the global average consumption and increase it. So, I mean, those of you who have to run the big companies, please get ready. And I was very happy when DGH was briefing me on what the third round means. Two things become clear. Governments can and governments will assume responsibility, but our economic actors, including those in the private sector and the PSUs or OMCs, they are also good corporate citizens. So I think it took an action by everyone. And I don't want to embarrass anyone to somebody did it, somebody, no, they all rose to the occasion. Where are we going from here? I think Secretary had several very good slides. The two I want to speak to very briefly. One is the extent of our sedimentary area which has been released for ENP. You know, for many years, when I started educating myself after becoming newly appointed here, I saw 3.5 million square kilometers sounds very impressive. पर उसमें से आप explore और exploit कितना करते हैं? 6% करते हैं. और ये 6% कब से क्या आ रहा है? अगर आप पुराना इतिहास देखें तो 6% से 6.2% होता है, 6.3 पर ज्यादा नहीं होता. So a newly appointed minister like me came to the conclusion, भैया इसमें तो कुछ गड़बड़ लगती है. Maybe the system is gamed. No, it doesn't even have to be gamed. There are people who told me in public events, okay, don't worry. I mean, I got appointed when 21 July. हाँ, उस समय स्थिति ऐसे नहीं थी. A lot of people who are considered king kongs in your industry, जिसको आप पैसे दे के बुलवाते हो VCR पे, वो वीडियो पे, पता नहीं रहते कहीं और आपको एडवाइस देते हैं, वो कहते हैं कि आपको डोंट वरी अबाउट ENP, इट्स वेरी कॉस्टली. एंड इन अदर वर्ड्स आई गॉट द फीलिंग दैट they'd be very happy कि वो 6% 7% पे रुक जाए या वहां पे भी नहीं पहुंचे. Today, thanks to the efforts that my colleagues have made and with a lot of political push by me, वो 3.5 million square kilometers में से 1 million has been freed totally. When I said this in meetings in Milan, a lot of people knew about it. These big companies knew about it. But I think our ambassador suggested that we'll request Secretary to write to all our heads of mission that they should point this out. And today your third round, more subsequent rounds, but releasing sediment basin for exploration and production is only one part of it. How are you going to treat them? Another crucial thing that Secretary pointed out was the data. Today, I can say with a degree of confidence, you compare the Indian story in terms of what we've done with anyone in anywhere in the world, we will not be behind. But what is crucial about the Indian stories, and I'm telling you, because you are related to this industry for a longer time, अगर अब भी और भी कुछ ease of business के लिए करवाना हमें बताइए, वो भी करेंगे. Because that is a philosophy from the Prime Minister down to everyone in the government who's operating this. And I think that is a game changer. That is why we have situations, people are wanting to come and do JVs. Some of them have already done them, others are in an advanced stage. So if you take the totality of this, and then you come to other actors, biofuel blending, look, I was ambassador in Brazil. I know हमारी दम निकल गया to do 5% blending in 10 states or union territories. नहीं हुआ. By the time 2014, we were only doing 1.4%. Today you're doing 10.2%. Before I came here in the afternoon, I had took a review meeting. There are challenges, but everyone who was making the presentation, including my senior colleagues in the ministry, everybody said, ये 9% नहीं, इसको आगे ले जाएंगे. That is the spirit. Compressed biogas, green hydrogen. Thereby hangs another tale. Most of you are in the green hydrogen. You're part of the narrative, and you're also part of the actions that we are taking to take that narrative to a point of implementation and fruition. So I think I suspect I've already covered my 2.5 hours, 25 minutes. But I want to have, I don't know, I suppose you're giving them something to eat also, no? Sure. So let us have the interactive part also. My sense is the India opportunity, I call it not the India story. It's India story to the extent you've navigated it. The India opportunity, when this India Week thing was made, I was just wondering, anybody looking at it. I was, by the way, we also made a brief launch outside in Milan. The results were electric. And I'm hoping my friends from the distinguished fourth estate who are here, I mean, whether you can give them the clip to send around or just the story, I want between now and March or February, I want that buzz to rise. When we agreed to the date, or rather when we decided on the date of February, I don't think any of us had a idea of how significant that period in February would be. Why am I saying this? Look, the challenges are going to increase, not decrease. And if there are challenges which are on every front, the trading front, the production front, biofuels, green hydrogen, what better place than to have 3-4 days of concentrated discussion between the main actors in the system, from the producers, the traders, the green people, the grey people wanting to become green, and to look at the global picture. So I think that the opportunity in Bangalore in the first part of February presents a unique opportunity for not only the India opportunity, the growth, which I said India will stand out, and I think 25% of the growth in demand will come from India. Nobody contests that. Because there are other parts of the world, some very large consumers of energy, but they're either plateauing or they've already got very high levels of consumption. But the growth here will take place. And I want to conclude on one point. When growth takes place and there's opportunity, obviously there are business opportunities. So I will give you some example. When you say that you're moving in terms of your contribution of gas in the energy mix from 6% to 15%, my eyes are already open, my ears also opened up under the turban. One of those big CEOs told me, you know, Minister, that means what? 95 million metric tons per annum additional. Arey bhai, 95 to total capacity nahi hai. So this is the scale of what your 6% to 15% means. So I extend a very warm welcome to all of you. This is some event we've been wanting to have for some time, but then, as most of you know, I don't control my diary. But I'm glad you are all here in big numbers. I'm very happy that my friends from the press are here, from industry are here across. So I hope we can have a good discussion and take this forward. This is not a one-time event. For those of you who have interacted with us since I became minister, I plan to do these periodically, but plan to do them around something substantive, either like we made the announcements on the third round, that's something big. We have shared with you what we have done in the last few months in terms of release and reduction of no-go areas, very, very drastic changes, what we have done on the data front. And the idea here is that through the interaction, we are happy to pick up suggestions which you might have on what more needs to be done. Very often when I am interacting with people and they say, I suggest you do this, and I am also reassured, many of the things being suggested have already been done. Maybe there is a problem on our side in not having been able to convey this in sufficient focus to all the others. Thank you very much.